Okay, next up, we have Eric Diehl. Eric Diehl is, I'm not going to say where you graduated from. I'm not sure I could pronounce it. Let's see, Eric Diehl is, since October of 2014, he is the VP of Media and Content Security at Sony Pictures Entertainment. He explores security solutions as well as new paradigms of content consumption and production. Previously, in 1998, he founded and led the Technicolor Security Labs. This team of 33 experts designed technologies such as the advanced key management, audio and video watermark, video fingerprinting, network security, and secure coding. He's filed more than 95 patents in security, pay TV, and user interface. Think about that for a second. He's published many papers and one book dedicated to DRM. His second book, 10 Laws of Security, will appear in the second semester of 2016. I guess it has. This is an older one, yeah. Okay. Please welcome Eric Diehl.
Okay. Hi everybody. So I will make a presentation of the threat analysis of VR in our field. Okay, I hope I will make it entertaining. First, I will explain why we need a threat analysis, what a threat analysis is. Later, I will present a very short taxonomy of VR, because VR is many, many things. And then the two interesting parts, identifying the assets, you will understand why it's important, and describing some threats, and at the end, conclusions. Okay, threat analysis, that's very important. I published a book, okay, it's already published, where I defined 10 laws of security. And the first one is law number 1, attackers will always find their way. So if somebody tells you, you are secure, nothing will happen, tell him, thank you, the door is over there. You know, that's the most important thing is, okay, you will be breached, it will happen. Which is nice when we are working in security, because on the side means I will have job for some time. You know, it's interesting, but that's the reality. Something bad will happen. So the purpose of the threat analysis is to know in advance to prepare potentially what can come. And so it's a cycle. And here I present the different stage of the cycle. Okay, first, identify the assets. So my law number 2 is identify the assets. And that's what we will do here. Because it's useless to protect something which has no value. You will not be able to protect everything. So you have only to protect what has value. Or at least what, if you lose, your loss is higher than your defense that you would have. So first step will be very important is identifying the asset. The second step in a threat analysis normally cycle is know your enemy. Who will be going after you? Is it a state? There is a big difference between what we call a script kiddie, which is just applying that, and a state, which is attacking a company. Totally different scale of knowledge, skill, investment. So very important. And you may decide to defend against the script kiddies, and maybe you decide, okay, if a state is going after me, okay, so long, that's life, I will not go over there. Once you have that, then you have to identify the threats. Okay, at least some of you are thinking. By definition, the guys will find things you didn't think about it. But okay, do the job. That's the part which is called threat analysis, according to me. After that, the next step in any security stance is to evaluate the risk. That means that now, okay, you know your threats, you know your enemy, and then you make a probability, okay, that's the likelihood that may happen there. Okay. And then you discuss with the business guys and saying, okay, if that happens, we may lose that. Okay, and then, okay, are you ready to take that risk or not? If you take that risk, okay. No, I don't want this risk. So if you don't want this risk and you don't accept it, then you have to design a countermeasure. That means you take some brains and say, okay, here is the things, okay, let's try to mitigate the risk. And in this threat, we knew that may happen. Okay, let's reduce the risk or eradicate. It depends. Okay, it's what we call the risk management. The most important part is there. And that has to be done with the business. If you let just the engineers doing that on the security guys, no way, because it will be too costly and so on, and we are paranoid and we'll always find the thing. So you have to come with some business balance. Then you design the countermeasure, and you implement. If you stop only there by designing the countermeasure and implementing, you're screwed, because we are all making mistakes and the guys are evolving. That means you have also to verify and to control that what was implemented is acting as expected. And then we start a cycle. It's never finishing, because every day, every month, okay, let's say, there are new attacks. You may have heard about Spectre on Meltdown. Beginning of this year, there was a totally new scale of attacks, a new generation of attack. We didn't think about it. Very funny. So we had the same thing which happened 20 years ago by one called that child channel attacks. Now we have the same thing which happened, by the way, with the same guy behind that, Paul Kusher, with a new generation of attacks. So we have old attacks which become better, and sometimes you have a new generation which is popping up and disrupting anything. So you continue. Okay? That's for security. Regardless of what it is, that's a cycle which should be always used. If you do not use this cycle, there is something, or a form of cycle like that, there is something which is going on. Okay, so that was there. So today we'll go on identify the asset, we'll not go to the enemy, and we'll describe some of the threats. Okay? What I will present you is far from being thorough and exhaustive, it's just to give you a taste of the kind of things. So, VR taxonomy. Okay. Three kinds of, by the way, I was very surprised to find, not finding right in the literature, a nice taxonomy. Usually the taxonomy was based more on the kind of devices you were using, rather than on the type of things we were doing. So I propose three kind of VR. What I call the 360 VR is the one we all are thinking about. It's when you have something and you are able to, you do not interact with the movie, or with the content, but you are able to move around. So if you are just moving like that, it's what we call the 3DOF, 3 degree of freedom, or you may even move inside the world. In that case, it's a 3 degree of freedom. So we may have the two. But you are not interacting. That means the flow of the story of the video is the same. Interactive VR, here things are more interesting because somewhere you are interacting with the content. It may be interacting because you are changing the storytelling, depending if I go there, something happens and so on, if I go there, like in a game, or you may interact with some objects, these kind of things. So that's the, here, usually you are in a 6 degree of freedom. Because you are moving the things. For the media industry, I don't speak about the games, or here, clearly I'm not speaking about gaming industry, I speak about the media industry, as. It's more or less related to casual gaming. And we start to see that because it's a very nice advertisement tool and promotional tool for some movies. So my studio has made several of them. All the studios are doing that. And the third category is theatrical VR. Theatrical VR is, okay, you have a 3D theater, you are within your VR headset, and you have a 3D theater which is displaying a movie on the screen. So you are replacing your physical theater by a 3D theater where you are sitting inside and you may watch the movie. So the movie may be 3D or 2D. Okay, those are the three ones. If ever you find another one, please tell me. I would love to make this taxonomy evolve. Okay, now what are the assets? Okay, what do we need perhaps to protect? But at least what has some value? Obviously in 360 VR, everybody thinks about it, it's the 360 video itself. That means either the 3D version, that means okay, you can replay that, or a 2D version. Yes, you may have that and everything. But what is also maybe interesting, also another asset, is what I call the machinima. That means it's in the previous version, you had the 360, all the movie. But in the case of the machinima, you have only the point of view of the user. That means what he was experiencing. So it's a reduced value, nevertheless it's a part of the movie of your content. So you have a 3D version, and as previously 2D version. Here it's quite obvious, this kind of asset, and everybody thought about it. Interactive VR. Okay, here you have several interesting assets. An interactive VR is usually an application. So you have to protect the application itself, the distribution of it, for instance. What I call IPR. That means you may have brought inside some specific software, some specific tricks, or characters inside. Those are the gameplay itself may be an asset that you want to protect. The look and feel on how it is. Once more, machinima. You may want to protect, okay, it may be interesting for some people to give away their point of view inside your interactive application. Do you accept or not? That's another question, but it's an asset, potential asset. The integrity of the software. Interactive VR is a software. Okay, as an attacker, it may be fun to change the story, to change the language. Okay, you can imagine the kind of fun things that, okay, sorry, I always use the term fun because, okay, it's part of the story, you know? It's, yes, you can modify the things, and you don't want that to happen, you know? Perhaps for a parody it's nice, but if it's your own one which is sold in you don't like that. And your interactive VR may use digital goods. And now we know that digital goods per se have some values. They may have some exchange and so on. All these assets may have some value and may need to be protected. On theatrical VR, okay, here you have the movie itself. Of course, that's obvious, the one which is displayed on the virtual screen. But you may also need to protect the access to the theater. Because if now I am having this theater, I may want only a certain category of movies to be seen there. Maybe I would not like to see X-rated movies there or other things. Or somebody using my theater for purpose I don't want. I want to control. In the same way that an exhibitor is controlling the movies is displaying in this theater, it may be the same here. So you have also to protect this access. And all of these have common assets, which are also very interesting. So the first is the application of the player. We already saw that about the interactive VR, but it's true here. You may want to control that. You may sell it and so on. So you want to control the access to that. Advertisement revenue. Maybe your system is based on advertisement. In that case, you want to be quite sure first that your advertisement is displayed, or that nobody is able to change the advertisement on display something else than yours. Of course, 3D object and textures. Those kind of things, because there will be 3D, will have more and more value. And we already are starting to see some of the things with the 3D printer. Let's imagine that I'm able to extract a 3D object, a hero, and so on then print it later. Okay, we may have some copyright. You know, it's not only anymore the camcorder. Here we may have extracting the 3D object and printing it. Okay, we have a copyright issue here. So that's very important. Behavioral, very difficult for a French guy to say that. Behavioral information, okay, more and more you will be tracked. You may have eye retina tracking inside, you are moving and so on. Those are some information which may perhaps have some value and you don't want them to be going out. So those are also other assets. On the one, my preferred one, and I will go more after that, is the user experience. If I'm able, as an attacker, to spoil the user experience of your content, marvelous game over. You know, it may be interesting to spoil, for an attacker, of course, not for me, but for the attacker to spoil that. So I will insist a lot about this denial of experience because I found it fun, between brackets. Okay, so here I've identified a list of assets. I believe it's more or less complete. If you have other ones, please don't hesitate to contact me and send that. But that's very important. And I wanted to insist. The obvious things everybody was thinking when we started there is, okay, it's the content. It's not only the content, there are more and more things. And I would even advocate that currently, perhaps, some of the other things are more important with our current business models than the content per se. And it's why we end up with something very important in security, the aversion table. I have now a list of assets. And then I have, okay, I did not give the aversion rate, but here you give a rate that you discuss with the business. If the loss is it minimum, high, how much are you ready to accept it to be lost or stolen? Or for instance, okay, I've just put the extreme, because you understand that I will insist on this one. On each studio, each application may have a different rating on all of them. So it's why I didn't come that. And by the way, that may also evolve with time, because the more time is coming, perhaps some assets will have more value and so on. But that's very important. And by the way, this aversion table, this practice, you should do that for everything, not only for VR. But an aversion table is very important. Know what you are ready to lose, because you will not be able to defend everything, or you will have to bring a lot of money. So aversion table are very, very important. Okay, now let's go to the, oh, sorry, I should have checked, because normally it should have had animation, on it should have been built with time. Sorry. Okay, so it will be less fun. So I present two threats, okay? The first one is stealing a 3D video from a 360 VR. So that means I have a 360 VR, I'm inside a head-mounted display, and I want now to have a copy of this one to make the equivalent of a camcorder and make it available. That's what the attacker wants to have. So making an illicit copy of a 360 VR. So my purpose is to have exactly the binocular version of the 360. Okay. Just to explain a little bit what attack defense tree is typically you start with, okay, what are the different paths an attacker could make in order to succeed in the goal. Here the goal is to steal this 360 video, and so we are defining each time the scenario on going where how it could succeed to do that. And then after that you will have to close the one you think is more important. And in the case of an attack defense tree, we are not only defining the attacks, but sometimes we are also defining defense. In that case, those are the green boxes. Okay, so sorry, my mistake, I did not verify that the animation was there, so we'll have to work that together. Okay, let's start with the first one. Okay, I want to steal a 360 video. So I have two places where I can steal it. I can steal it, the original content, that means the one which has not been displayed, or I can capture the original content. So you understand the difference between capturing, that means I capture something which is rendered, on stealing the original content, okay? So if I want to steal the original content, I have two places. From the VR gear itself, so virtual reality gear, or from the source. Okay, let's go with the source first. So the source, either you are getting a copy because it's a leak by an insider of the production house and so on, okay? Or you are a smart guy, it was not protected, and you were able to steal that from the servers there. Okay, so typically for the leak insider, today we have what you call the MPA compliance guidelines, TPN in the future, so there is a set of rules, a lot of things. If you apply that, normally you should mitigate. You never kill things, but you should mitigate that. In the case of stealing from servers, okay, the best and the unique solution is encryption at rest. Your content should be encrypted. And of course, the key is difficult for the attacker to adapt, but all content should be encrypted. Now, if I want to steal that from the gear, so I may steal that during the transfer between the server and the gear. In that case, okay, protect that content. And here we use digital rights management, typical solutions. Now, question mark is, are the DRMs, the current DRMs applicable to? I'm not yet quite sure, that's something to be studied. Or you may steal that inside the HDD itself, inside the VR gear itself, because it was not protected at that moment. Here, once more, you use DRMs, because DRMs are designed with compliance robustness rules to avoid this kind of attacks. Okay? So now the fun part is, now let's try to capture, okay, let's say, okay, we'll not get the original one, but at one moment this content is decrypted and rendered. Now let's try to attack that and go there. It's what we call usually the analog goal. So either you may steal it before the HMD, if it's done by a remote device on the HMD. Here we use the typical HGCP protection we recommend, especially the latest version, which in some cases may have HGCP stripping, so it's not perfect. On the second one is capture the content at glass. That means once it's rendered. So you have two things. Screencasting. In some cases, and I've seen that, okay, the application was able to cast the content on a TV set with a two-part because it was interesting for the people to share the experience. Then it's easy, you know. Or if you're able to install on the VR gear a screencaster which will record the content itself. But even if that's not the case, you may capture that at the glass itself, putting a camcorder in front, capture it. You move your camcorder, you recapture it. You move the camcorder, you recapture it. You understand that? You do that and do that. And after that, you use a stitching software, which I done for that. Game over, you are able to do that. By the way, we did an experiment in my team. I took a trainee to do that, and we succeeded. Okay, so that means that we'll have to come with forensics watermark and things like that. So capturing these kind of things are not impossible, they are possible. Okay, that was 3D video from VR. Now, denial of experience. Okay, you may be aware that in virtual reality you have sometimes cases of cyber sickness. Cyber sickness is, okay, when you are watching the content, okay, you may be sick on the same things than when you have nausea when you are traveling, you know. So there are some very good papers, and I put a reference of one of the papers, which explains the reasons of cyber sickness. There are 4 main reasons. The first one is position tracking error. That means the tracking is not accurate. That means that what you are displaying believes you are in a position which is not yours. So your body sees something, whereas it's in another position. In other words, is sick in some cases. Another one is too much lag. Here it's a little bit the same thing. If you are lagging, that means your body is now in a position, whereas what you are seeing is not consistent, which means your internal ear hates that. You are sick. Another one is flicker. If it's flicking too much, it generates cyber sickness. That means you need to be higher than 30 Hz, 60 Hz, and so on. And the fourth one is unstable visual background. That means if it's why sometimes people are sick, are seasick, because you know the horizon is moving. And so, you guess what? So now, as an attacker, the fun part is, okay, let's try to induce cyber sickness to the viewer. Imagine that now, when you're starting to watch a movie or content, as an attacker, you are able to induce for them cyber sickness. That's fun, no? Isn't it? Okay. Or you are able to demonstrate that you would be able to do that. That's a marvelous form of ransomware. Yes, I know, I'm crazy and so on. It's my way, sorry. So, okay, the animation, okay. Induces cyber sickness. So let's try it with the position tracker errors. Okay. You may modify the data from the sensor. You know, if you are able to take control on the communication from the sensor, just change them. You will have these kind of things. You may DOS, the denial of service of the sensor. You may try to attack. Recently, there were marvelous attacks on drones, which they were using ultrasounds to change the captures, you know, and the captures were fooled because they were just by ultrasound, you know, and the gyroscope was going wrong. You could do these kind of things. Well, not you, because you have proper people, but attackers could do that. For the flicker, you may change the display parameters. If they are not protected and so on, if you're able now to come back and go down and then go to 10 Hertz, 12 Hertz, 13 Hertz, and so on. Fun, you know? You may increase the lag. Of course, if you have access to the display parameters, you may slow down everything. You may throttle down to increase the lag, you may throttle down the application. You know, okay, make it slow. You will be there, okay, you see there. That's a problem. Slow down the renderer. You know, there are many places where we could do infamous things. You may increase the flicker, okay? Change just the rendering rate. Reduce the display rate. My favorite, unstable visual background. Okay, shake the background. Now, you know, you have the GPUs, you come with a CUDA microcode inside, you put that, and now you make the extraction. That's not impossible, you know, with this kind of calculation today, okay, and then you have the background which is moving on. Okay, we did not experiment that, okay, none of them. We did the camcode, not this one, because I did not find any volunteer to, to test that. But those attacks are possible, and we will have to think about them. Because if I was able to think about them, the bad guys will think about them, and one day they will do it. Just if it's just for fun, perhaps, or for more nefarious actions. Okay, my conclusions. VR has many valuable assets, and it's not only content, it's more than just the content. So we have to think about that. VR will be under attack. Okay, every new version of media has been attacked and pirated. Okay, I mean that field for a few decades, okay? Each time there were attacks, and there will be attacks. We have not yet seen them because, okay, they were not interested in them. They will come, for sure. We must design the defenses now. We must not be in a position where in 5 years we say, okay, yes, now we have to defend. Yes, but we will have a legacy of gears outside and we'll not be able to retrofit them. So it's now that we have to start to think about it, even if we do not need necessarily to implement all of them immediately, but we have to think it now. And we must collaborate. It's not the work of one studio or for one gear. It's all the industry, all the stakeholders. That means equipment manufacturers, DRM providers, content owners, security experts, because content owners are not necessarily security experts. And here we are seeing. And we have to build a common security framework, not necessarily the final solutions, the implementation, but at least a common security framework of best practices of some of the APIs and things that we need, as we did with all solutions. Okay, so that's my conclusion. It's really a plea. Wake up. If we believe that VR has a future, then we have to defend this future now all together. Okay, thank you, merci. Just, okay, my 2 books, okay, so if you're interested. If you're interested to know a lot about DRMs, I really recommend Securing Digital Video. Sorry for my personal promotion, but I think here everything about fair play, play ready, ASCS is described in this book. Okay, any questions, if we have time for some questions? No question, I did a bad work.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please tap the like button and also subscribe to our channel to receive notifications when we add new content. For more information about us, please visit SMPTE.org. We'll see you next time.